All right. Welcome everybody to day three. Okay, so we're going to start with the question of the day. Today's question of the day is, let's see, yeah, what is one hobby you've picked up recently, or maybe you want to pick up? What's something that you're trying to do, or that you just started doing? Um, this is honestly the same answer that I gave the last time I asked this question because I'm still trying to pick it up. I would love to get more into like yoga or stuff like that. I just feel like I want to be like I feel like stretching is important and stuff like that. I used to play sports a lot and I don't stretch enough, I feel like, and so I'm looking for longevity. And so I would love to start doing that more. I've done it a few times, but trying to be consistent, more consistent at it. Yeah, so stretching slash like yoga, I feel like that kind of stuff's what I'm trying to get more consistent at. Let's see. Lana, you're the first on my screen. Please take it away.
I think for me, I would want to get back into like the workouts that I used to do when I was younger because I think I just really need to prioritize my health more these days, you know? And I'll choose junior.
So for me, coding. That's one thing that I'm trying to get into and whatnot. But I think I resonate with everybody else, just trying to look out for the health. For me, probably get healthy again. I used to play sports when I was younger. Maybe so I can put my kids in place. They play a lot of tennis, so maybe I'll pick up tennis one day. And Kiko, we'll go again.
I think I've been uh doing a lot of computer stuff lately, and I'm gonna switch it up. I want to learn how to rod and reel fish. I used to do it when we were kids, and it's just been drawing me. I get bored when I go to the beach, so it's like something for me to just get my hands on and do. Plus, it's not easy if you don't know what you're doing. You know what I mean? Fishing is kind of it's not called catching, it's called fishing, right? So that would be mine. Let's go, Adrian.
Hello.
Yep.
Yeah. Um, that's hard. I used to do sports back in high school too, but like I think if there's one sport or a hobby I would want to pick up again, it's definitely badminton. So, long story short, after a tournament I was in Manila for gaming, we went to BGC and we got like badminton rackets. And then we just went to the badminton court down in DMV, near DMV. And we tried it for the first time. I'm like, wow, this is sick. This is great. I want to go back to play some more. And it's good cardio. And I don't know if you guys ever went there for like climbing or badminton or anything like that, but it's hot. It's really hot in there. So like you sweat a lot. And it's good for exercise. So um we'll go with Ron.
Hi guys, sorry I just hopped on. What was the question again?
Yeah, yeah. The question was, what's one hobby that you maybe just started or want to kind of get into?
Okay, cool. Man, I want to say drawing. I used to do a few sketches here and there in middle school, way back when. Kind of fell off in high school, but it's still something like I would doodle every now and then, like free time. But nowadays, you never can really get free time. But that's very therapeutical to just draw.
Got you. And Matt.
I want to get into like playing an instrument. Uh, I tried to learn guitar, but I don't know. It's a little hard for me to re memorize the chords and everything. So uh, I want to get into piano because my mom and grandma know how to play piano, and I think it would be easier to learn since they already know how to play. Yeah.
I got you. Cool. Well, thank you all for sharing. Super cool. Um, All right, so we'll go ahead and do a hotkey of the day real quick, and before we kind of move back into I guess the curriculum, the regular curriculum. So I'm sure you guys have seen me like when I'm doing a condition or a loop or something like that. So I'm just gonna do like number equals 10. I'm gonna go like if number is greater than whatever, than 10, and I'm gonna click enter and then I do my end. And so a hotkey that I do right, like in this specific situation, every single time is Shift Command Enter. Or on Windows, it'd be Shift Control Enter. And so I found that this kind of saves me a lot of time. Basically, instead of having to manually do, so like for example, if number is greater than 10, or sorry, greater than 10, clicking enter, doing end, instead of having to like go up to the next line, go all the way to the right side, and then click enter. I literally just I go to this line and then I do shift command enter. It basically makes a line in between and puts your cursor there, which is to me saves me a lot of time. It's a lot easier, and you guys will see me do this pretty much every single time that I'm doing something like this. And it helps me to it's just more convenient to do, and it just helps me to be more, I guess, productive slightly. But yeah, you'll see me do that a lot. And so it's shift command enter or shift control enter depending on if you are on Mac or Windows. So let me go ahead and share that in hotkeys. All right, cool. Okay, so yesterday at the end of class, I said that we will go through this kind of, I wanted you guys to look through this as you guys have time. And I told you guys that we'll kind of go through this together. And so let's go ahead and do that. Let's do this, and I'm just gonna grab this. Let's put that there. Okay, so the instructions or kind of the task at hand was to create a number guessing game that incorporates conditionals, loops, or conditionals and loops. And so the requirements were that a program selects a random number between 1 through 100. So no longer are we setting what the random number is. We're going to have kind of the program itself set that. The user has 7 attempts to guess a number. And then after each guess, we're going to kind of give the user some help to let them know, hey, was that too high? Was it too low? Or obviously, of course, if they got the correct number. And so if they got the correct number, congratulate them, exit the game. If the user runs out of attempts, reveal the number. And so here's some hints as well. And so yeah, we'll go through the hints first, and then actually, we're gonna use this as kind of our template in a sense, because what we did yesterday with kind of that secret game is kind of pretty similar. And so let's go through the hints real quick first, and then from there, we can take a look at what we did before and see how we can kind of incorporate that together to build out this kind of relatively simple game. Or it's kind of cool though. All right, cool. So the first hint that I gave was rand one dot dot 100 can kind of generate a random number from 1 to 100. And so this is a built-in Ruby method, another method kind of similar to how we did dot class or dot reverse or things like that. So this method basically generates a random number given the kind of the range that you gave it. So for example, if we do puts rand, and then we're going to say 1 dot dot 100, and we'll just try this out because that's exactly what it says in the hint. And I'm going to run this Ruby practice 3.rb, click enter. Cool, we got 4. If I run it again, we got 85, 15, 97, etc. And so right off the back, here's one way. This takes away the first requirement. So we're able to basically get a number from 1 to 100, which is perfect. So basically, what we're going to end up doing is we're going to do like secret number equals rand 1 to 100, something like that. So this is the way that we can kind of start this program. The next thing is that we're going to use a number. We're going to keep track of the number of attempts using some sort of counter. And so this hint right here, we can or this kind of counter for attempts, we can think of this the exact same way as when we were doing all of these loops with index, the same exact thing. So this is in a sense, this is the counter to keep track of how many times we've went through the loop. And so we can kind of do something very similar for this. So that's where we're probably going to have like attempt equals 0 to start out. And then through the loop, we're going to do something like attempt plus equal 1. So we'll probably do something like this throughout the loop. The next hint is we're going to use a while loop to manage the attempts. So basically, we're going to keep going until the attempts gets to whatever the set number of attempts, whatever, basically what I think we said 7, until we get to 7 attempts, basically. Okay, so let's do this. Okay, so let's go ahead and go here. And I wanted to grab, where was that? This one. Let's leave that there. And I'm going to uncomment this and let's see how this one works. So this was the secret number one, where we gave some secret number, basically in the same sense, it's some random number, in a sense, kind of same idea. And we're keeping track of the user's guesses. And this loop is going to continuously run until the user's guess equals whatever secret number it is we set. And we're also giving them some feedback based on whether or not it was too low, too high, or if they got the right number, which is perfect. So we're going to use kind of something very similar. If not, we can kind of use this exact same logic. And then the one difference though that we'll have to do is for here, we say that we want the user to only have 7 attempts. In this example, this is going to continuously go. This will continue to go until the user gets that right guess. For ours, for this next program, we wanted them to only have 7 attempts. And so that's why this next hint says to use a while loop. So basically, we're going to say, keep running this loop until we get to that desired amount of attempts, or the max number of attempts, for example. Okay, so we can kind of use this as our template, but we're going to switch it up a little bit. Okay, so I'm going to go and do this. So let's do, I don't mind keeping these. And then we're going to go like max attempts equals 7. So we'll set that to 7. And then from there, we can do some sort of greeting, basically like, hey, welcome to the game. Here's what you're going to do. You have X amount of attempts. We'll kind of give them a little intro, for example. You're like, puts, welcome to the number guessing game. You have, and then we can tell them max attempts to guess the secret number. Cool. So let's go ahead and run this. Let's just make sure this works. And actually, I'm going to print out all of these values just to make sure they're being set properly. So like puts secret number, puts attempt, and puts max attempts. I just like to print them out just to make sure that what I'm doing is working. So we see, cool, we got this message. We see that max attempts was 7, just like we printed out. Current attempts is 0, and we have a random number of 80. We change it, we have a random number of 4. Perfect. And also to make this easier, I'm going to change this from 100 to 10. So to start out, I'm always going to aim to do the simplest version of whatever it is we're doing first, and then we can kind of expand to make it more complex. So even to simplify it even more, I'm going to change this to be a random number from 1 through 10. And just to make sure it still works, cool, we're still getting some random numbers somewhere between 1 through 10. Exactly what we expect. All right, cool. So the next thing we're going to need to do now that we have kind of got our intro working is we're going to need to create our while loop. So that way we can loop through and continuously prompt the user to guess a number. So we can say something like while, and we can say attempts is less than max attempts, because once we get to the max number of attempts, that's when we're going to want to end the loop. And then I'm going to type in my end, and then I'm going to do the hotkey, which is Shift Command Enter to make a line above. And then the first thing I'm going to do within this loop is I want to prevent an endless loop. The way I'm going to do that is I'm going to do the incrementing thing that we've been doing. So specifically, what we're using to keep track of the number of attempts and keep track of when the loop ends is we're using this attempt. So now, in the same sense that we're doing I plus equal 1 or number plus equal 1, I'm going to go attempt plus equal 1. And so now we know for sure that this loop is going to end at some point. It's going to end once this gets to 7, basically. And just to make sure, let's just go ahead and print attempt, for example. Let's go ahead and run this. Did I misspell? Oh, yeah. Attempt. Oh, I did right here. Attempts. Cool. There we go. We see it says welcome, and then it says 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. And it was actually a good thing that I tested it out because I ended up having an error with my spellings, which is perfect. So we can see this is working. We're not getting an endless loop, which is exactly kind of what we want. Okay, cool. So now that we're in this loop, now here's where we can basically, we want to prompt the user, hey, give a guess. And based on that guess, we're going to do some sort of condition similar to what we have down here to determine if it's too high, too low, or if it's just the right number. And so we can prompt the user by saying something like puts, you're on attempt number, and then we're just going to say attempt, please guess a number now. And then we're going to get their guess. So for example, we can say guess equals gets.chomp.to_I. We want to do the .to_I because we know that gets.chomp always returns a string. And we're going to be using a condition that is going to be comparing their guess to an integer. So we want to convert it to an integer right away. Okay, so now that we have their guess, let me just go ahead and print this out just to make sure it works. Cool. Welcome to the number guessing game. You have 7 guesses. Yeah, let's rerun that. Cool. You have 7 guesses. Guess a number now. If I did 10. Cool. And actually, this is already this is functional, but technically, we'll see if I actually find the right one. I didn't find the right number. But so the next thing that we know it's working. So the next thing that we want to do is add some feedback. So that way we can help the user to actually guess the right number. And so really we can kind of just take this exact logic, and I'm just going to put it right here. And so there's a few things we're going to have to change. We are using guess, but instead of, or actually, yeah, we are using secret number, which is perfect. And so let me verify. Let's go through this and verify. So we prompt the user. From there, what's it called? If the user, or we get the user's guess. And then from there, we're saying if guess is less than the secret number, say it's too low. If the guess is higher than the secret number, put it's too high. And then from there, we have else puts congrats, you got the right number. But there's one more thing that we need to do. We need to add a break. And the reason we need to add a break is because technically we're not doing an until loop, we're doing a while loop. And so this while loop is going to continuously go until this condition is met. And so if the user guesses the right number, we want to automatically break out of this while loop. And if we don't put this break, it'll just continue going even if they guess the right number. So let's go ahead and try this out now. Run this. Cool. Welcome to the number guessing game. You have 7 guesses to guess the secret number. You're on attempt number 1. Please. Oh, sorry, I read this wrong last time. Please guess a number right now. Let me go ahead and fix that. All right, cool. Please guess a number now. So let's try 7, too high. You're on attempt 2. Please guess a number now. So that's too high. Let's go to like 5. Too low, maybe it's at 6. Perfect, we got the right number. Cool, so we have this working. So we have this number guessing game working properly. And then the last thing that I want to add, I just want to add one more thing. And so if the user, what's it called? I want to be able to tell the user, hey, I'm sorry. The last part of it that we need to do is if the user runs out of attempts, we need to reveal the number. So we already have, if the user guesses correctly, we congratulate them. We're giving them some feedback on whether or not their guess was too high, too low, or correct. And we are giving them 7 attempts, and then we're also doing the random number. Technically from 1 to 10, but that's easy to change. So the last thing we need to do is I'm going to go right outside of this condition, but still be inside this loop. And I'm going to add one more condition. So basically, I'm going to say if attempts, or if attempt equals max attempts, I'm going to go end. Okay, cool. Making sure I'm using the right variables. And then from there, so basically, if we get to their last attempt, we're going to basically let them know, hey, by the way, the correct number was whatever. So we can go puts, sorry, you've ran out of attempts. The secret number was, and then we'll just tell them what the secret number was. Okay, cool. So let's go ahead and close that out, or let's clear that and let's run it again. So I'm just going to guess I'm going to guess the same thing over and over because I want it to fail. Okay, cool. two. So we failed 7 times in a row. And then it's like, okay, cool. Sorry, you've ran out of attempts. The secret number was 4. So now we've kind of covered every situation that the user was asking us to do, which is perfect. Okay. Let's see. So now the only last thing to do is to change this to say 100 and test it out one more time. So let's try 10. So that's too high. Let's try 7. We got the right number. Perfect. So now we have a working random number game. Pretty cool. You know, it's not too hard. I feel like any one of you guys can do this given enough time and just kind of some direction. Yeah, questions, comments. All right, cool. So, let's see. So the next thing that we're gonna do is, let's see. I added this like part 2 to the challenge. So after each guess, we want to tell them how many attempts they have left and allow the user to play again. And so this is what I want you guys to work on. I did provide the solution there, but I want you guys to get this working and I want you guys to test it out. And then without looking at the solution, I want you guys to attempt to basically modify it to basically allow the user to go again. By go again, so let's say I want to play the game again. I want it to prompt me, hey, do you want to play it again? If so, redo all of this over again, basically. So that's kind of the goal of this part 2. Okay, cool. So I already shared the solution for this part 1. You guys are good to check that out here in Slack, which is right here. And so then from there, you guys can start working on part 2. You guys are good to share your screen and try that out. I'm gonna give you guys like 8 minutes or so on this. This one's not, it's not super, we haven't went through exactly how we could do this just yet. And this is kind of like a challenge thing, and we're gonna go through it together for how to do it. Hey Kiko, what are you need help setting up any settings or anything?
I'm trying to take off the autofill. I did it last night, but it came back again. I don't know why.
I think it was type in suggestion. It's like inline suggestion. Type in suggestion in there or suggest, inline suggest or something. Yeah, yeah, yeah. Okay, scroll down. It's go and do inline again. It was there. This is the one that I had Ron do and it worked. Scroll down. Wait, slow down. Scroll up a little bit. Uh, where was it? Scroll up a little bit more. Right there. Yeah, that's the one. Go and click open settings to see what that says. Scroll up. Okay, okay, okay. I see what's going on here. So this is why your settings aren't saving. So what I want you to do is, okay, delete this curly bracket right there on line 3. Delete that curly bracket. Yeah. And then click tab like one time at the ending there to like make I want all of this to be in line basically. Perfect. And then from there add a comma right there at the ending of that line. At the end of line 2. Perfect. Okay, cool. Now do Control S. All right, cool. So now, okay, so that's what I was also wondering. I was wondering why your auto save your save wasn't working. So now you shouldn't have to do Control S anymore. So like whenever the focus changes by focus change, like let's say you're typing something and then you click into the terminal or do something else, it'll automatically save your changes. All right, cool. So yeah, you're good to go back to practice RB and mess around with that. And it should be better.
Sorry, can you repeat the part for the autosave? Because mine's not autosaving again for some reason.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Here, go to Shift Command P or do Shift Control P. Yeah. Shift Control P, it'll bring down, yeah. So do open user settings. All right, cool. Grab the J go to the JSON one. All right, let's see. Yeah, so autosave, I see it's there. Okay, so it should be working. Go ahead and try it. Go to practice RB or practice 2. Yeah, go to practice 2 and then like make a change. So we can see that you've made a change right there. And so then try like clicking into the terminal and this white thing circle should go away. All right, cool. It did. So it's working.
That's crazy. It wasn't working for a little bit a while ago. But thanks, man.
I believe you. I believe you.
Hey, Leon, do I have to restart the program for it to work? Because I'm still getting the auto lines, the autofill.
Let's see. Inline. Ron, do you remember if you okay, turn that off. Yeah, turn that one off. See if there's any more. Okay, try going back to it. And if it is still doing it, then we'll just close out VS Code and reopen it.
It's
All
shit,
right,
it's
cool. There
working.
we go. Junior, you're super close. I think you're like one word away. You're right there. I just saw it, I think. It looks solid though. You're right there. So my hint to you, Junior, is I'm trying to think of a hint that's not going to give it away, but like I just want you to look at line 65. That's what I want you to look at. And and think of like why this wouldn't cause it to run again. Not the best hint, but let me know. I'll give you a second to think about that or look through it because I think everything else looks right.
Like, this becomes a string.
Correct.
So then when it goes back up here, it becomes y.
Yep.
And if it's y is equal to y, I'm thinking like I messed this part up. It's not supposed to be in quotes or something like that, or
So here let's go or actually let's look at this 65. So 65 is a condition.
yes.
So we're saying if play again equals y. And then
Mhm.
whenever it does all this stuff, then go down to the bottom of the file. So we'll go all the way to the end. And so then it gets here. It gets to the end. And this is completely fine, what you have here. However, because it's a condition, it's not going to go back up to the top and loop through again. It's a condition, so it's just going to end and then it's going to stop. So what you need to do is instead of it being a condition, you need it to be a loop. So instead of this saying
Y.
if, change that to while. So basically run this, keep doing everything in here until play again doesn't equal y.
Mm.
You were saying if play again equals y, do this one time. That's what it was saying before.
I think I understand. I think, yeah, okay.
Yeah.
It's a one-time thing if you use if.
Mm-hmm. Because a
I
condition doesn't loop. A condition just runs one time and then it's done. You have to add a loop in
okay.
order for that condition to run multiple times. So you'd put a condition inside a loop kind of thing.
Okay. I see.
Yeah. No, solid though.
Okay, so then yeah, it it wouldn't go back up
Exactly.
because it already ran it once when I initiated it this.
Mm-hmm.
It that's it. Okay. All right. Okay.
Yep. Okay, let's
So,
see.
let me try and do it while play again here. Why? Okay.
Oh, okay,
Else.
okay. I know
I
what
have to take
correct.
while
Correct. You're right.
this
Yes.
comes out and this comes out and goes there.
Yep.
Okay. All right.
So
Let's see.
basically you had an else, which is only for a condition. Now you change it to
Perfect.
a loop so you wouldn't do a condition.
Okay. Okay.
There you go.
Hmm. Okay. Okay.
Solid.
All right. Okay, so the number is 3. Oh, congrats. It took you on to. Oh, see, so like I messed this part up. If I get it correct,
Mm-hmm.
it throws me to here.
That's where, so the difference between what you had and what I had was
Yeah.
I put that in a condition. So that block that you're saying right there, where you sorry you were not get able to guess the right number. If you look at the code that I shared, I put that in a condition because I only want to say that if a condition is true. So basically the condition that I'm listening out for or that I would recommend listening out for is if attempts equals 7. So basically the last time through the loop, if we get to the ending of this while loop, then that means that this basically the loop's about to end. So we can say, hey, sorry, you know, here's the correct number.
Okay.
Yeah. So right now you're running that no matter what. You want to just add a condition to only conditionally say that. So it's like if this condition is met, then say it.
So this would be, I would take this out.
And you can leave it right there. You can just wrap it in a simple if condition.
Oh, okay. So if I go if, um, right, and
Mm-hmm.
then, oh shoot,
Okay, just do the Command Z.
Command Z
Perfect.
there.
And so now
Okay,
this is only going to run during that specific condition.
I see.
Yep.
Okay,
And then the one thing though that you can do to make it slightly better is you can change 7 to be max attempts or whatever it is for your max attempts.
so instead of over here
And
remaining,
yep,
I would
exactly.
have,
And so you can use
okay,
remaining attempts instead of max it or instead of hard coding it to 7. Or no, you could use
I,
remaining attempts or yeah, just do yeah, you can do max attempts or
and then this would be max attempts, just to kind of, I don't know. I could initiate this somewhere in the discussion and then it just so I don't break all the rest of the code, right?
yeah, I mean,
Or
or
something.
you could use remaining attempts and you can set remaining since you already set remaining attempts to be 7 and you're using that in your code. So just change it to be so you could change, for example, the beginning of the uh okay, wait. Yeah, so go
Or
to
I'm just making it too crazy already, right?
no worries at all. So let's go to delete 72, delete max attempts, and just re-change that to be 7. So since you're using it already, we don't have to use max attempts. We'll use remaining attempts, and that's perfectly fine. So you're already setting what that is.
Mhm.
And so now, instead of it being hard coded to 7 right here, you can make that to be the remaining attempts.
Remaining attempts. I see.
And then same
Oh,
thing with the with that condition down below, you can make that remaining attempts as well. And the idea with this is if you changed how many attempts you wanted to give the user, then it'll change everywhere that that's referenced. So it's not hard coded anymore. It's going to be dynamic in that sense.
that makes sense.
Yeah,
Okay. And then over here, remaining attempts. 7. Or okay. Interesting. Very interesting. Yeah. It's not the cleanest though, right? Like it doesn't flow.
there's there's always I feel like there's always room for improvement. To me, working code especially the first time through is good code in the sense that it's working. We can always iterate on it to make it cleaner and neater, but to get it working to me is the most important part first, and then we can kind of clean it up after. So now that you have it working, now here's where you can kind of take the time to clean it up.
Okay. Cool.
Yeah, no, great work.
So do this so it saves, right? Then that dot is gone.
Correct. Cool.
Hey, Leon,
Yes.
if you look at my screen, I have a problem here, but it's okay. So if I type if, see how it says here unmatched end, and I need a if. I have it here, but why isn't it highlighted?
More than likely that means that there's a string. So I know that like when something's in a string, it's like highlighted basically that color. So more than likely there's a string that wasn't terminated, that wasn't ended, which let's see.
Might be this.
Some okay, right. Wait, hold up. Scroll up a little bit. Right here. So it says attempt. So let's change this to let's do a couple of things. Let's change print to puts right here. And then from there, I can see where the confuse where the program is getting confused. So we can see there's start like wait, stay right there. We can see there's start quotes right here. And so it's attempt number, attempts plus one, max attempts, and then from there it's ending the quotes right here. So from attempt till this plus sign is technically one quote or one string. And then from there, then you have like enter your guess is not a string, and then you start a new string right here. And so then everything below there is technically going to be a part of that string. And so what we
So
do,
so move this.
no, so go ahead and just put
Got
an
rid of.
end quote right there. Go ahead and put an end quote right there.
Oh,
Cool, there you go. And so now we can see that the syntax highlighting here is different, which is what we want. All right, cool. All right. Um, okay, so you guys are good to stop sharing your screen. And actually, what I'd like for everybody to do is just here, I'm gonna share my screen first before we start that. There's a share. Okay, so for the time being, I'd like for um everybody or whomever is still working on that, go ahead and just take a look at the solution here in the homework and exercises. And you guys can go ahead and you guys can work on implementing it from scratch, maybe after class or later on today or something like that. But for the time being, we'll go ahead and work off of this. So what I'd like for you guys to do is just go ahead and grab that solution, Control C or Command C, and then go into wherever it is that you're working. And then, for example, I'm just going to put this right there at the bottom. And so now this solution should be working. If I enter 10, it's too low, 50 is too high, 25, 20, 17, 18, 19. Cool, I got the right number. And so we can see this solution works. So for the time being, just so that way everyone's on the same page, feel free to just use this solution. And then we're going to work through part two together right now. Does that work with everybody for now? All right, cool. Okay, so part two, let's take a look at part two, which is what I want you guys to work on later. Okay, so part two, as I mentioned, is after each guess, we're telling the user how many attempts they have left, and we want to allow the user to play again after the game ends. And so basically we want to loop, we kind of want to just add another loop so that way the user can continuously play again if they want to. And so it's kind of simple. It's once you have this working, this is the kind of the bulk of the logic, the bulk of the um yeah, I guess the code that we'll need to kind of get this working. Really, all we need to do in order to get the user to play again is we need to wrap it in another loop. That's kind of all we kind of need to do, in a sense. Or not in a sense, that's kind of all we need to do. And so what we're going to do is I know this is working already, so I'm just going to go outside of everything here that we have. I'm going to go up here and I'm going to say play again. So this is going to be a variable that I'm setting to yes. I'm going to hard code this to yes, or whatever variable it is that you want to use, y or whatever. And so now we can create our loop. So we're going to say while play again equals yes. And then I'm going to put my end, and I'm going to do my shift command enter to go up into it. And then, so basically, so this is exactly what we want here. So I want to put all of this logic within here because this is the loop that we're going to wrap it all in to make sure that until as long as play again is yes, continuously allow them to continue playing the game over and over and over. As soon as play again is no or anything else, then that's when we know for sure that the user doesn't want to play again. And so in order to actually to test this out, to test it out before we actually, sorry. So I'm going to comment all this out, and to simplify it, we're going to just test this simple loop. And so I'm going to do puts, do you want to play again, for example. And then from there, I'm going to go play again equals chomp dot, oh no, we don't, not a, sorry, we're not doing dot 2i. But what I can do is dot down case to make sure it doesn't matter. We're not case sensitive. So the way that this loop is going to work is by default, we're saying play again is yes. So this, it'll automatically be true. So it's going to start the loop. So while play again is yes, that's true. Start, do whatever's in the loop. So now we're just going to ask the user, hey, do you want to play again? We're going to prompt them to say yes or no or whatever. And then from there, if they say yes, it's going to go to the end and it's going to go back up here because this is a loop. It's going to check this condition. Did they say yes? If they did, do it again. If they say no or anything else, then that means that this is not true. So then it's going to end the loop. And so we can go and try this out before we actually put all of our like core logic in there. So let's run this. Do you want to play again? Yes, I do. Do you want to play again? No, I don't. Perfect. That's exactly what we want. So to kind of implement this challenge or part 2, all we need to do is we need to put this loop around all of this logic. So here's how we're going to do it simply. And I'll show you guys this hotkey. So I'm going to highlight everything and I'm going to hold option and I'm just going to click up, 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 up. Cool. And so now I just moved all of that code within this loop. Basically, if you hold option, you can drag lines of code up and down, which is really cool. And so the other cool thing about it is it'll also indent it for you. If you guys notice, it's indented all the way to the side. As soon as I put it in the loop, it's kind of smart, and so it even indents it. That's another hotkey. But basically what I did was I pretty much just copied and pasted it into here and wrapped this whole thing in a loop. Cool. So now the way this is going to work is we hard code play again to yes, and then we have this while loop. We say while play again is yes. The first time through, play again is hard coded to yes, so of course it's yes. It's going to do all of that stuff that we did already. This is the logic that we already created. We know this works. Once this is done, it's going to say, hey, do you want to play again? If they say yes, then okay, cool. Go back up to the top. That means yes, do it again. And it's going to continuously go until the user types in no or something else. Okay, so let's try this out. And I'm just going to make it fail. Okay, cool. So, all right. So do you want to play again? Yes, I do. Okay, cool. Let me try it again. Cool. You used all your attempts. The secret number was 51. Do you want to play again? As soon as I type in no or anything else, it exits the loop. And it's exiting the loop because now play again is no longer yes. Play again is no. So that means that this loop ends. Cool. Does this make sense to everybody so far? All right, cool. If you guys have any questions about anything that I'm doing here or in anything, please feel free, reach out to me, reach out to Lana. By all means, I'm happy to walk through any specific part of this. I want to make sure that everyone's on the same page. And so just feel free to let me know. Okay, cool. But on that note, it is 6:53. Let's go ahead and take a 10-minute break. We'll come back at 7:03 and we're going to move on to the next topic. And I'll also share this code.
Sorry, also for Windows, instead of option, it would be Alt for that hotkey.
Good call on it. Thank you. Yeah, Lana's on Windows for anyone. So she'll be your Windows expert. All right, welcome back, everybody. Okay. All right. So the next thing that we are going to go through, we're actually going to go through a new concept now. Um, and so we're going to go through another data type. So far we've went through the data types that we've went through are string, integer, float, and Boolean. Another data type is called, and or the next data type that we're going to go through is something called an array. And so we can think of an array kind of like a list of items where you can store kind of like or we can think of like them as a list of items associated with one singular variable. And so they're really, really useful for kind of like managing a lot of data. We can think of them, or we can use them for like numbers, for words, for any of these other data types we can store within an array. We can kind of store anything in an array. It's just a way for us to collect a bunch of data. And so that's why we can think of it literally as like an array of, or a list of items. Sorry, a list of, basically like a list of items. So a super simple array that I like to use as as one of my first examples is like numbers. So I'm going to say numbers equals an array, and then an array is always signified with square brackets. So anything within here is going to be, or basically the array is everything from these square brackets and anything within inside of it. And so the way we can do it is like 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And each one of these spaces within inside here, separated by a comma, is called an index. And so the overall thing is called an array, and each object inside of here is an index. So this would be index 0, index 1, index 2, index 3, index 4. And understanding the naming convention for these indexes is going to be important for later. But don't worry about the naming for it right now. All you need to understand is that an array is basically a list of items. Again, it could be, for example, colors. Colors equals red, green, blue, etc. Whatever, it could be anything. And so the point I want, again, if there's one thing you guys get out of here, is that an array is a list of items. And those items could be integers, they could be strings, they could be booleans, they could be really anything. It's just a way for us to list a bunch of data. Does it make sense so far? All right, cool. Okay, so another thing that we can do is we can create like an empty array. An empty array would literally just be like this. In the same sense that we do like an empty string, which is this, we can also create an empty array by just putting empty square brackets. And so we're going to do this more later. Because like let's say that we want to put up, we want to save a bunch of data. We're going to start with nothing, and then eventually we're going to add to this array to kind of keep track of that data, for example. Okay, so now let's go ahead and see what happens when we like print out what an array looks like. So if I do puts numbers, let's see what it looks like. Cool. So puts numbers prints out 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Basically, every index is going to be kind of its own line because it's printing them out one by one. If I wanted to see what the array looks like, kind of, I guess, raw in a sense without, so puts kind of formats it in a nice way. Puts formats it and it prints it out each index on each line, as we can see. If I wanted to see it like kind of raw, like what I said, I could do P. So P is like puts, but it's not going to format it. It's not going to format it nice, basically. So if I do this, now we can see when I did P, I can see the raw array. I can see what it looks like with this with the square brackets. I can see exactly each index and the comma and everything in between. And so when I'm dealing with arrays, and P isn't, I'm sorry, let me take a step back. When P is not specific to arrays, I could P num like a string, something. I could P an integer, whatever. But we can see that when we use P versus using puts, it prints it out raw. By default, puts kind of it kind of formats it nicer. So if we look at, for example, P something that way or puts something this way, we're going to see there's a difference. The difference is that puts removes the quotes. P does not. And so if I'm dealing with arrays or eventually one other data type in the future specifically, a lot of times I'm going to use P versus puts just because I like to see the raw array. I don't want to see it formatted like this. To me, if it's printing out like that, to me, it's not as intuitive as seeing the actual array when we're dealing with all the data. And so now you're going to see me switching a lot of times from doing puts to doing P. And that's why. Cool. Okay, so now we can do like P numbers and P colors, for example. If I run this, we see it says 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and we see the red, green, blue. Perfect. Exactly like what we expect. Okay. Let's do, yeah, let's go ahead and stop here. And I'm gonna give you guys an exercise to try this out yourself. And then we'll move on. Cool. So you guys' exercise, I basically want you guys to create an array of your favorite colors. And so you're basically going to define an array of your choice. So after you guys create your array of colors, I want you to create another, sorry, here, and I'll be more explicit with this. First, create an array of colors. Do that. Then create two more arrays of your choice and print those out with P, and then print them out with puts to see the difference. I will say use puts for now. Okay, cool. All right, so your exercise is I want you to first create an array of your favorite colors, and you're going to use puts to display all three, basically whatever is in that array. After that, I want you to create two more arrays of your choice. It could be numbers, it could be books, sports, whatever, and print those out with P, and then also print them out with puts to see the difference between doing both P versus puts. All right, cool. You guys are good to share your screen and try that out. And I will also give the example. There's the example. Hey Kiko, what you had there, what it was, the issue was that you just needed to put an underscore, basically. So it's like favorite underscore animals. So if you're using like two words, you'll separate them with an underscore versus with a space. So when you do favorite space animals, it's like you set a variable animals equal to this array, but then it's like, hey, what is favorite? Favorite doesn't make sense because that's separate. It's by itself. And so that's why that's erroring out. Yeah, so go ahead and try that. Perfect. There you go. Super cool. Give you guys like a minute or so to mess around, and then we'll continue. Nice. All right, you guys are good to stop sharing your screen. And let's go ahead and move on to the next thing. Cool, let me go ahead and share. All right, so that's kind of that's the basic of what an array is. And so now the next thing I want to go through is accessing and modifying arrays, or like the elements of the array. And so if you guys remember earlier, I said that in an array, technically each of these, we'll say objects or items, are technically an index. And so that's why if you guys remember when I was talking about while loops and stuff like that, I was saying a lot of times we'll use like I equals 0, I plus equal 1, and that's because the word index is used a lot within programming or coding. And so another place that it's used is that, again, as I mentioned, each of these items are technically an index. So each element or each item in this array is assigned a specific index. And that's important to know because that's how we know what each element is or how to access each element. So for example, um, let's say that I wanted to grab number 3, or let's keep it simple. So sorry, let's go ahead and do this. So to keep it to first, the first thing I'd like to share is that the way that arrays are numbered with regards to their indexes is it always starts at 0. So it's going to go 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, whatever, 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 et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. And so even though technically we put number 1 here, this is index 0. This is index 1. This is index 2, index 3, index 4, etc. And the same thing goes for here. So this is going to be index 0. This is index 1, index 2, etc. And so, for example, let's say I wanted to grab if I wanted to print out whatever was in index 1, index 0, I'm sorry. Even I'm messing up what I'm saying. So if I wanted to print out this number 1 right here, which is in index 0 of the numbers array, the way that we would do it is because it's an array, we're going to use square brackets, and then we're going to say 0. So basically what this says is, hey, print out whatever is in index 0 of the numbers array. And so now let me just comment out colors so that way we don't print it. Cool. And we see it says 1. So it says 1 because within the 0 index of the numbers array is the integer 1. If, for example, I wanted to print out 5, I know that 5 is index 4. So instead of it being 0, I'm going to put 4. I'm going to run this again. We see it says 5. So with that being said, can anyone tell me how could I print out? I want to print out green. What do you guys think? Can someone help me figure that out? Anybody, anyone can unmute and just feel free to help me out.
You go to, or you'll put P colors integer 2.
Integer 2?
Yeah.
Straight up.
Or sorry, index 2. Sorry.
Index
integer.
2. So it printed blue. I want green. How do I change it to make it say green? It's really close.
Oh, sorry. That's index 1.
Index 1.
Perfect. Index 1. Cool. There we go. So it isn't like kind of super intuitive at first, but all we have to remember is that it starts at 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, whatever, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. And so this is the way that we can access the different indexes or the different elements of a specific array. And so another thing we can do, so kind of similar to variables, if you guys remember, one thing that we can do with variables is, let's say I did name equals Leon, and then I do puts name. So now if I run this, it should print out Leon. I can reassign what name is by doing name equals Alana. And then now if I print out name, we can see if I run this again. So name starts as Leon because I said it was. I printed it out and then I reassigned what name is and I changed it to Alana and then I printed it out. And so we can see within the code, we're able to manipulate different variables. So it started with Leon and we changed it to Alana. In the same sense, we did something similar up here with the play again stuff. So here we started play again with yes. And then on the bottom of the code, we reassign what play again is. So in that same sense, how we do that, we can do that with just any variable. And we could also do that with elements in an array. So basically what I'm trying to get at is we can reassign what a specific index is in any array that we want, kind of in a sense. So the same way to do that here is instead of doing, so for example, I want to keep that there and I'm going to delete that. So I'm going to go numbers at 4 equals, and I can reassign it to be whatever I want. I can make it a number. Let's say I want it to be 10. So now if I P numbers at 4, and I run this, we can see first numbers at 4 starts out as 5. And then after I reassign what numbers at 4 is, now it's 10. So that's one way we can reassign what a specific variable is. And so with this in mind, how could someone help me change red to orange, let's say? What would I do to do that? Anybody? I'm gonna pick someone random if I don't here.
Color 0 equals orange, in quotes.
Equals orange. All right, cool. Let's try printing that out. Colors at 0. See what happens. Cool. We see now it's orange instead of it being red. Perfect. So that's a way that we can reassign variables, which this is an important concept. So that way, basically it's a way that we're able to manipulate different data. Okay, cool. Let's see. Let's do this. All right, I'm going to show you guys a couple more things before I give you guys an exercise. So I'll comment all this out. And we're going to continue using this numbers array and this colors array. So now we've seen how we can print out an array, how we can print out a specific index of an array, how we can reassign what a specific index is of an array. And so now what if we want to add to an array, or what if we want to remove from an array? So one way we could do that is Ruby has a built-in method for both adding to an array and removing to an array. So to add to an array, we're going to use something called push. So we're going to do, for example, numbers dot push, and then from there, I'm going to pass in whatever it is I want to push in. So I'm going to pass in, for example, 6. And so now let me go ahead and print. I'm going to print out what numbers is, p numbers, and then I'm going to do that again right after it. So I'm going to print out numbers before I do a push. I'm going to push 6 in, and then I'm going to print it out again. And let's see what happens. Cool. So the first time through, it's the original array of 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. The next time after we push a number in, we push 6. Now it says 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Super cool. Okay. Another thing that we can do is pop. And so, or we can remove an element, for example. So let's go ahead and go, so push adds to an array, adds to the end of an array, pop removes from the end of an array. So for example, if I did colors dot pop, and then I want to, let me print out p colors, and I'm going to do that again. Oh, I'm going to do that again after. I'm going to do it before, and then I'm going to do it after. And let me go ahead and comment this out so that way we don't run that. Cool. We see the first time colors is red, green, blue. After we do dot pop, now it's just red and green. So this is a way that we can remove an element from the array. Specifically, we're removing from the end of the array. Okay. Cool. And then the final thing I want to show you guys is there's many different methods that we can do on arrays, the same way that there's many different elements, or I mean methods that we can do on strings. If you guys remember like dot reverse, all those different things, there's so many built-in methods that we can do. I would recommend if you're trying to do something specific, I'd literally just recommend to look it up online. Like, how do I reverse an array in Ruby, for example? Let's see what it says. Cool. In array, there's an array dot reverse. So this hashtag means it's a method. And so that would mean that you would just do whatever the array's name is, dot reverse. And just to try it out, let's do p numbers dot reverse. If I run this, cool, we can see it reverse the method or reverse the array. And so what I kind of wanted to get out of this, what I would like for you guys to get out of this is there's so many different built-in methods that are built into Ruby and a lot of different languages. And so if there's something specific that you're trying to do, then I'd recommend you kind of look it up and see what it is. Because I'm going to show you guys a good amount. I'm going to give you guys a bunch of different tools, but there's so many different tools that you guys have out there. Okay. So the final method that I'm going to show, or the final thing that I'm going to show you guys with regards to arrays is the dot length. So this is something that we'll be using a lot. So for example, if I wanted to know the length of an array, I could do numbers dot length. And let's just print that out. We can do p numbers dot length. If I run this, we can see it says 5. If I was to change this to say 6, 7, whatever, if I run it again, we can see it says 7. And it's not saying 7 because of this number 7. It's saying 7 because there's 7 items, 7 elements in this array, which is pretty cool. Okay, so those are the few things that I wanted to show you guys with regards to arrays. So for one, we created a simple array. We created an array with integers. We created an array with strings. We could have done an array of arrays, but we'll get to that next. And then from there, we're able to print out the array using P specifically. I like using P because to me, it prints, I want to see the actual array. I don't want to just see each index printed out one by one. To me, it's more intuitive for me to see the actual array. But ultimately, that's kind of user preference. So if you guys want to use puts versus P, up to you. And then from there, we're able to access a specific element of an array. We're able to edit or reassign what a specific element of an array is. We're also able to add to the ending of an array, remove from the end of an array, and check the array's length. The array's length is. Okay, cool. Questions, comments? Okay, cool. All right. So let me go ahead and share this with you guys. Here's some examples. And I'm going to provide you guys with a quick exercise for you guys to try it out. All right, cool. Here we go.
Hey, Leon, sorry, real quick though.
Yes.
For the push and the pop, that's only for the end, but are there other commands for like the beginning or we can just look that
Yes,
up?
there definitely are stuff for the beginning. And so I'm gonna task you to look up online and see if you can figure out, or anybody, let's say anybody, maybe that'll be the bonus. Bonus, find how to add to the beginning of an array, how to add and remove from the beginning of the array. That's gonna be the bonus. There is a way. 100%. Great question, Rob. All right, cool. So you guys' exercise, and so we're gonna continue working with that colors array. And so I would like for you to access and print the first and the last colors, change the second color to something else, add a new color to the array, remove the last color from the array, and print the updated array and its length. So basically, you're going to print it after you've done all these manipulations to the all these different changes to the original colors array. I basically want you to print what's the new length of the array. And then the bonus is find how to add and remove from the beginning of an array. Cool. You guys are good to share your screen and try this out. Hey, Ron, you're super close. But so your square bracket's 0. All you're missing is you need to tell it, hey, go to the colors array 0 index. So basically you just need to put colors in front of the square brackets. Yep. And then delete the space. Go to and then delete that space between colors and the 0 or the square brackets. Perfect. Now try running this code. There you go. Solid. Hey Kiko, I see where you're going with this. I like it. So there's a couple things. The first one is let's remove, so whenever we're doing this equal sign, we're trying to reassign what a variable is. So and what I mean by that is you set what colors is this array right here on line 15, and then from there, then you're doing colors equals this array. So basically you're reassigning what this array originally was to be something else now. And so the way to specifically grab, for example, the first color is go ahead and delete that space right there in between colors and the 0. And then go ahead and delete the comma 3 and just have 0 in there. Cool. And so now what we're saying, what this line of code says, for example, line 17, is it's like, hey, print out whatever the 0 index is from the colors array. And so this is the way that we can grab that first element. And so, yeah, cool. And then the next thing is go ahead and delete that equals blue. And we'll just, and basically to reassign some, or to go ahead and delete the blue as well. And then what we can do is below, if we wanted to reassign something, just for like readability and simplicity, click enter. And then do colors square brackets 2. And then space equals. And then whatever it is that you want to set it to. And then from there, then below it, then you can do p colors at 2. P colors square brackets 2, basically. And so now you can see, you're going to see what it looks like before it. You're going to reassign it. And then you can see what it is after it. Cool. Go ahead and try running this code because we made a bunch of changes. Cool. There we go. All right, cool. You can continue with that. Perfect. The word.
Hey Matt, for yours, purple would be a string, so you can reference the all the other strings in your array.
Oh, hey Matt, I think what Lana was saying basically was what you had there, because I'm looking at the error so I can see what was originally there. So basically you just need to wrap it in a string. So technically you were like saying like purple doesn't exist. That's why it's saying like, hey, like it's saying what is purple? You're treating it as if it was a variable name versus if it's like a string that you're using. And then the other thing though I'd recommend is go ahead and delete the space between colors and the square brackets. And then from there, yeah, you can do that. So yeah, just to make sure it's a string though. All right, cool. All right, cool. There you go. It's not airing out now. But one thing that I kind of recommend to kind of simplify this even more is go ahead and delete the equals purple. Delete that whole thing. Cool. And then on the next line, go ahead and do colors square brackets 1 equals. Go ahead and put a space there. Yep. And then space. And then you can do the purple string. Perfect. And then now print out colors at 1 again below it. And so the reason I like doing it this way versus the way that you originally had it, there was nothing wrong with that way. But the reason why I like it this way is because then now you're going to print out what it is before, then you're going to reassign it, and then you can see what it is after. So that way, like you can see it change. All right, cool. So it starts with green, and then you change it to purple. So that's why when you print it out again, then it changes to purple. Cool. All right, cool. You can continue with that. And then I'll give you guys a few more minutes with this before we move on to the next thing. Hey Ron, you're super close. Go ahead and do Command Z twice. Go ahead and bring back the parentheses. Super close, actually. So I want you to take a look at all of your strings in there and how you put that. And then I want you to take a look at how you set up green and see if there's a difference. Perfect. Gotcha. Perfect. There you go. So go ahead and run that. There you go. Solid. All right, cool. You guys are good to stop sharing your screen. All right, cool. All right, let me share my screen. We'll go through the solution real quick, and then we'll go through the next thing. All right. So I'm going to use this colors array. So I'm going to just bring this to the bottom. I shared the hotkey. I actually put it in hotkeys already. Alt or Option plus up or down arrows allows you to move your selected lines up or down. Okay, so here's the exercise. Let's work through this together real quick. So let's see, access and print the first and last colors. So let's do P colors at 0. And then I want to print out the last one as well. So we got 0, 1, 2. So then it's going to be 2. And I already did a bunch of stuff. Let me go to run the code. Perfect. Red and blue. That's what we want. All right. So now it says change the second color to a different one. So I could do colors at 1 because that's the second color. And I'm going to say equals. And let's change it to be pink. I don't know. And then after that, I actually just want to print out the colors array so that way I can make sure that it actually changed. So I'm going to print it out before and after. All right, cool. We see it's red, green, blue, and then it changes to red, pink, blue. Perfect. That's what we want. All right, next, we're going to add a new color to an array. So let's do like colors dot push, and let's add in black. And so we can do P colors before it, and I'm also going to do it after. Cool. We see red, green, blue, black. Perfect. And the last thing, or actually two more things, we're going to remove the last color. And then from there, then we're going to check the length. So let's go ahead and do colors dot pop. And then we're going to do P colors before and after. Cool. We see red, green, blue, and then it's just red and green. And then finally, let's go ahead and print out the length of the colors array. P colors dot length. Perfect. It says 3. And so that is how we can kind of do all of those. Did anyone figure out how to add or remove from the beginning of array? I haven't looked it up. I know there's a way to do it. I don't remember what's the exact thing.
I looked it up, but it didn't work on my screen. I don't know why.
What did it say?
It said array shift.
Shift. Okay, so let's try it out. So let's go colors dot shift, and then let's do like blue. I don't know. And so let's do P colors, and we'll do it before and after. Let's see if this works. Let's see. No implicit conversion of string into integer. So shift, it seems like, does shift take an index? Let's try 0. I don't know.
Was it? It's insert or shift?
Insert? Let's try insert.
Yeah, I tried insert.
Okay. Anyone else have any, or let's look it up. Let's look it up, Kiko.
Leon, I think it's unshift.
Unshift.
Is it unshift?
Cool, there we go. So unshift did it, added it to the thing. So let's say like let's do black. All right, cool. That is how that it is unshift. Shift was super close. I feel like there is a shift though. Put that over
It
there.
is, but to do the opposite, it removes from the beginning. There you go.
Got you. Let's try colors dot shift and then P colors. Got you. That did remove it. Okay, so it's shift by itself. My fault, Kiko. I was the one doing it wrong. Thank you. Okay, cool. So unshift is a way that we can add something to the beginning, and shift is a way that we can remove from the beginning. Super cool. Here, and we'll add a comment here. Um, add to the beginning of the array, and how to remove from the beginning of the array. Cool. Questions, comments about how to, I guess, manipulate arrays and what's inside it. All right, cool. Okay, so it is 51. Let's go ahead and take a 10-minute break. We'll come back, and then we're going to combine loops and arrays together. All right, welcome back, everybody. Cool. And then Junior, I did just see your message. I see that you have a prepend, and I've heard of that one too. And so another method that we could have used is called prepend. And Junior, how does that one work? If I'm sorry, I haven't used it in.
Yeah, I just looked it up on online and I tried it out,
Got you.
and it looks pretty good. I
What is
think it
that?
adds it adds whatever you put in the bracket or the parentheses to the front.
Oh, sure. Let's do P. Super cool. So we could have used unshift or prepend. And so this is really cool because I think one of the things I want you guys to get out of this is that there's many, many different ways to do the same thing. There's even methods that kind of do almost pretty much what seems like the exact same thing. And so there's many different ways to do a conditional. There's many different ways to do a loop. There's many different ways to kind of write the same code. And so ultimately, it kind of, I feel like it, at some point, becomes what's your preference. Okay, cool. Thank you for that, Junior. All right, so the next thing that we are going to do is we are going to go through some loops. So basically, we're going to add loops with arrays. So let's say, for example, I wanted to print out each of these variables, or I mean, indexes, or I wanted to manipulate each of these to be something else for whatever reason. And maybe another one, actually, I like this one better. Let's do numbers. Numbers equals 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. What if I wanted to multiply each of these numbers by 2 or by 5? How could I do that? Is kind of the question that we're kind of getting to. And one way we could do it is with a loop. And so we can loop through an array now. That's instead of looping through like based on some other condition, we can loop through this array to manipulate each one of its elements. So we're going to use a while loop to do this. There's many different types of loops. We could have used a for loop, an each loop, whatever, but we're going to use a while loop to start out. So the first thing that we're going to do is the same as the other type of loop where we did an index or a number or whatever. We're going to go index equals 0. And then from there, within here, now I'm going to go while numbers at, or sorry, let's do while index is less than numbers dot length. And then I'm going to go index plus equal 1. And so the way that this works and the way it reads is we're going to say, hey, continue this loop until this index is the length of this array. Once it hits the length of it or more, stop the array because then from there, the array is basically it ends. There's no more things for us to loop through within that array at that point. Once we get to the length of the array, there's nothing else to loop through, I guess. So for example, let's go ahead and do p numbers. Let's do this. Print something. Let's just start with simple. So now let me go ahead and clear this. I'm going to run it again. So we see it says it prints something out 5 times. The reason it printed it out 5 times is because this array is 5 is or has the length of 5. If I added 6, 7, or whatever, now it should do it 7 times because now the length of the array is the length of 7. Cool. Does this make sense so far? All right, cool. So now the next thing that I want us to remember is in order to access a specific element of an array, so I'm going to comment this out. For example, if I wanted to print out 4, I could do p numbers, and then it's going to be square brackets, and then it's 0, 1, 2, 3. So p numbers at 3. If I run this, we see it says 4. Perfect. And so with this in mind, going back to the loop, we can do something to make it more dynamic. So instead of printing out a specific hard-coded number, we can go P numbers at, and then it's going to be, what's it called? Index. So basically, the first time through, index starts at 0. So this should print out 1. The next time through, we're going to do index plus equal 1. So now index is 1. Go through, index is now 1. So numbers at 1 is now 2. And then now index is going to increment it. Now it's going to be, what's it called? 2. We're going to go to the second index. Now that's 3, etc. And it's going to continuously go through that. And so let's see the way this works. Let's see. Sorry, let me comment that out first. Let me run this again. Cool. So we see it says 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. And the reason it's doing that is because basically we're looping through the numbers array using its length and then printing out specifically the numbers at whatever index it is that we are dealing with. Sorry, does that make sense with everyone? Cool. Okay, cool. So with this same exact setup, we can print out the different colors in the colors array, or we can do anything. And just to show you guys, let's go ahead and do this. I want to print out each of the colors in this colors array. So for example, I can go index equals 0, or for short, I could go I equals 0. And then I'm going to go while I is less than colors dot length. I'm going to do end. I'm going to go shift command enter. And then I'm going to go I plus equal 1, shift command enter. And then from there, now I can do whatever logic. So I can do like P colors at I, for example. And so now if I print this out, we see it says red, green, blue. Perfect. That's exactly what we want. Okay. So with this being said, I'm going to give you guys an exercise to try this out for yourself. Exercise. Use the while loop. Okay, cool. Sorry, I changed it up a little bit. I was gonna have you guys do the colors one, but then I ended up just doing it. So you guys' task is use a while loop to print out each element in one of your arrays. All right, and I guess this is kind of redundant. Use a while loop. All right, cool. And then I will share you guys this code as well. All right, cool. All right, you guys will get to share your screen and try that out.
Hey Leon, how do I stop an endless loop?
Control C. So make sure you click into the terminal. Like make sure your mouse is there. You'll know because that'll be highlighted. Cool. Now do Control C. There you go. Cool. Got you. So, okay, cool. So do you know what to do to fix your endless loop? What do you think? So actually, there's a couple of things actually now I'm looking at it. So change one right there, change that one, sorry, right there, to be I or to be index. Change that to be index. Yeah. Or you can, so if you do I there, then you just have to change this one to I. Okay, cool. And then do numbers, square brackets, I. Right there. Yeah. And then there's one more thing you need to do. And basically click enter. So right after this one, right after line 22, click enter. And then you're going to do I plus equal 1. And so we're going to walk through why it is we did everything there. So the first thing, we could have used index, but if we change it to I, it doesn't really matter. It's the same thing. As long as we're consistent with our variable names throughout the thing, that's all that matters. And so the first thing we did, we set I equal to 0 to keep track of what we're doing here. And then from there, we're using while I, instead of it being 1, because we're saying while 1 is less than numbers.length, 1 is always going to be less than the length of this array. So technically that'll never fail. That'll always be true. And so basically we want to change it to I, so that way we can be referencing, we can keep track of the number of times that we've looped through. And so then from there, we're doing I plus equal 1, because we're saying, hey, once you've printed it out, make sure that you change what I is. It started with 0. Once we get to this point, change it to whatever 0 plus 0, or I equals 0 plus 1. So now I is 1. And then the next time through, I is going to be 2, I is going to be 3, et cetera, until we get to the length of the array. Sorry, does that make sense, Kiko? All right, cool. Shoot, sorry, I didn't know I was muted, but I added a quick bonus. And so the bonus is for you guys to figure out how can you make it so it's not just printing out numbers at I. I would like for it to print out a sentence with that, with you printing out the element, basically. So maybe if you're using colors, you can say the color is whatever. Or if you're doing numbers, it could be like the number is whatever, etc. And you change it based on whatever it is you're doing.
Sorry, can you repeat that one more time?
Yeah, so basically, I want you guys, instead of it just printing out black, for example, I'm looking at your screen, instead of it just printing out black, blue, red, I'd like for it to say the color is black, the color is blue, the color is red. Something like that. And of course, like if someone else is listening and you guys are doing a different type of array, feel free to change that based on whatever it is you're doing. A hint for you guys is string interpolation or concatenation. I'm gonna give you guys like 2 minutes to mess around with this, and then we'll move on. Matt, I see where you're going with that, but you're thinking of a condition. So right now we're not doing conditions, we're doing loops. And so else if and else, they only make sense with regards to conditions. It'd be like if, else, basically. And so with a loop, you're gonna have to figure out how are you gonna make what you're printing there, apple, orange, grape? How are you gonna make that to be whatever it is when it's looping through? So basically it should print out this is the apple, and then this food is orange, this food is grape, whatever. And not all at one time, it should be one after the other. And so my hint to you is that you have access to what food at I is right away or right there. And so maybe you can do some string interpolation or concatenation. Instead of it being the food is apple, you can say the food is something. Yeah. All right, cool. You guys are good to stop sharing your screen and let's go through this solution and also how to do this bonus. All right, so let's grab this. So that's the exercise. I'm just going to make a new array. I'm going to say names equals, and it's going to be Adrian, Kiko. Oh, sorry, I need to put these in their own strings. Adrian, Kiko, Junior, Matt, Bron, and Alana. So names equals that. And if I print out names, I should see all of, I'm sorry, I didn't even wrap it in an array. Sorry about that. There we go.
Really, I think you gotta share the screen.
Oh, am I not sharing my screen?
I can see your screen. Yeah.
Hey, Junior, are you able to see my screen? Sorry, Junior, you muted.
I think I see you, but I don't see the screen. I don't know.
Try doing a three-finger swipe up on the Mac and then like expand everything and see if you can, if it's there somewhere.
Okay. Hmm.
Here, I'm gonna stop sharing. I'm gonna share again just to try it out. All right, cool. I stopped sharing and sharing again. Can you see my screen?
Okay. Now I can see it.
All right, cool.
Thanks.
Yeah, no worries. All right, so I created this names array and it has all you guys' names. And now I'm gonna run the file. It prints out like we expect. And so now I want to use a while loop to print out each element in this array. And so what I can do is I have to create a variable to keep track of basically how many times we've went through the loop. So the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to do like I or index, either or you can use whatever variable, you can use number, completely up to you. I'm going to use I. I'm going to say I equals 0. And then the next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to create the loop. So I'm going to say, basically, I have to figure out what condition is it that, like, when is this loop going to stop? Or when is this loop going to run? I guess maybe is a better way to think of it. So I want this loop to run while I is less than names.length. Once it gets to the length of the array, once I is equal to whatever the length of this array is, basically that's when I want it to stop the loop. And so that's exactly why I'm setting up I equals 0. And then from there, I'm setting continue running this loop until I is equal to or more than names.length, basically. So now I'm going to do end. And then the first thing I need to do once I'm inside my loop is I need to increment I. I need to do this because if I don't do this, then I'm going to have an endless loop because then I is never going to change. So this condition will never be false and it's just going to be an endless loop. Cool. The next thing I can do is I can just print out names and then I'm going to go square brackets I. And so I is 0 the first time through, and then it's going to be 1, 2, whatever, whatever, whatever. And so I know that because this is what I starts with, and then every single time through the loop, we're going to increment it by 1. And so let's see what happens here. If I run this, perfect. We see it says Adrian, Kiko, Junior, Matt, Ron, Lana. And so it's doing exactly what we expect. Each time through the loop, I is going to change to be a different number. And so we're basically going to use that to our advantage so that way we can make this dynamic and it's going to print out each name. Okay, so now the next thing that we wanted to do was we wanted to have our loop print out a sentence with when we print out each element of the array. So that's kind of the bonus. So in order to do that, it's actually really straightforward. We can just use interpolation or concatenation. And so, for example, instead of just printing out names by itself, I can go P, or I can do puts, completely up to you, but I can go P being current name is, and then I'm just going to interpolate, and I'm going to go names at I. Because I already know that we have access to names at I, which is going to be each person's name, instead of printing it out by itself, I can just print it out within a string. So now I'm going to comment that out and run it again. Cool. The current name is Adrian, the current name is Kiko, etc., etc., etc. And so this is how we can make kind of printing out different, I guess, looping through, I'm sorry, this is a way that we can loop through an array and kind of add something to it, add a sentence. We could have manipulated it if we wanted. For example, another thing that we can do with loops is back to that numbers example. I'm going to go numbers equals 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Let's say that I wanted to add 2 to every single index of this array. I could go I equals 0, and then from there I can go while I is less than numbers.length, and I'm going to do I plus equal 1. And then in here, now I can go P, and I'm going to go numbers at I plus 2, for example. So now if I run this, we can see now I added 2 to each index of the array. Now it's 3, 4, 5, 6, or if I wanted to multiply for whatever reason. Cool, we see 2, 4, 6, 8, 10, etc. Basically, this is a way that we can manipulate all the different elements within this array. Cool. Questions, comments? Does this make sense with everybody? Okay, cool. So let me share this code with you guys. Solution. All right. Okay, cool. So, all right, so this is a while loop. This is us using while loops. There's another type of loop. There's actually a bunch of different types of loops that we could do. But another type of loop, and actually probably my favorite loop to use, is something called an each loop. So we're going to do this. Each loop. And so each loops to me are a lot cleaner. I don't have to, basically with each loops, we don't have to worry about incrementing the index. It's important to understand while loops, but oftentimes I'll probably use an each loop over a while loop if I can. There are times where while loops are mandatory though, like you have to do it. And we'll get to that one once we get there. Okay, so in each loop. So for example, I have this names array. So instead of doing like I equals 0 while I is less than the names dot length or whatever, instead I can just go names dot each do. And then from there, I need to create a variable. So I'm creating some pipes and I'm creating a variable that I'm going to use to symbolize each element each time that we're looping through this array. So for example, I'm just going to call it index, or technically I can call this anything I want. I'm going to call it test, and I'm going to put end, and now I'm going to go in here, and I'm going to go p test. So the way this each loop works is that we're saying, hey, loop through this names array, and each time through the loop, we're gonna assign the variable test equal to each index. So test the first time through the loop is gonna be Adrian. So we're gonna print out Adrian. The next time through the loop, it's gonna be Kiko. The next time through the loop, it's gonna be Junior, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. And so let's go ahead and try this out and just see what happens. Cool. We ran it, and now we can see printed out Adrian, Kiko, Junior, Matt, etc. So basically, what we did here is exactly the same thing as what we did here. And I'll actually move this down to the bottom. So basically, these three lines right here is the exact same thing as these, whatever, 5 or 6 or however many lines that is. It's just this to me is a kind of cleaner way to do it. But yeah, I like it because we don't have to keep track of I. It's like it already knows the length of the array because we're using this function dot each. It's an each loop, which uses dot each to basically loop through each index or each element of the array. Okay. Couple things to point out here that as you guys use it more, it'll make more sense. This word test right here, this could be anything we want. If I changed this, so with one exception, this could be anything we want with an exception of using names. I say with an exception of using names because it doesn't make sense to use that variable when that variable is already being used because that's what the array is. So any word with an exception of whatever loop it is that you're looping through, you can use that here. If I made this index and ran this again, that's completely fine. If I made it name and ran this again, completely fine. However, the one thing you have to note is that whatever you use up here is what you have to use down here. If I change this to be test and try to run this again, it's like, what is test? It doesn't know what test is because we didn't assign that to be the what's it called, the variable that we're using for each index. The last thing I'm going to share with this before I give you guys an exercise to try this out is I like making these variable, whatever this variable within, so these are called pipes. So if you hear me like put this in between the pipes or what is in between the pipes, more than likely I'm talking about these straight lines basically. And so the variable that I'm using within the pipes, a lot of times I want to make it kind of in turn like relative to what it is we're talking about, in reference to whatever it is we're talking about. So for example, this names array has a bunch of names in it. And so each time through each element is technically a name. And so it just makes sense that I make this variable name. I could make it anything I want, but to me, it makes sense to do name. In the same sense, for example, just to show you guys another example, if I did numbers equals 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and then I go numbers dot each do, to me, it makes sense to use number. And then I'm gonna do end, and I'm gonna print out number. It makes sense to do number because each element is a number. So does that make sense to everybody? Okay, so that's kind of the naming convention that I use. You could call this whatever you want, but I think it makes most sense. To me, it makes most sense, and it's going to be easiest for you to understand if you're using something kind of relative to whatever it is you're dealing with.
I have a question.
Yes.
What if it's singular?
What if this is singular?
Yeah. Because
So
you're putting numbers, but you're making it in the pipes, you're putting a singular number.
yeah. So if this was number, for example, So then that means I'm going to make this one number because that's what we're looping through. So then here, I'm just going to use something else. I might use num, or I might use n, or basically,
Just as long as the variables aren't the same, right?
exactly. Because
Okay.
it's going to be conflicting if it's like, okay, number dot each do number. So then it's like each time through the loop, are we reassigning what this is? Which that, like that doesn't make sense. It'll break.
It'll bring up prompt, then it'll always have a prompt on the bottom, right? Because something's wrong.
Yeah, they'll more than likely it'll probably actually let's try it out. Let's see what happens. Because I don't remember if it exactly errors out or not. Let's see what happens if we do this. Okay, so it didn't break actually, which is really it's really cool. I guess Ruby's really user friendly in that sense. However, to me, this doesn't seem intuitive. It's like like let's say this was like 100, like a lot of different lines of code. There was a bunch of logic in here. When we're looking at the code, we're like, okay, what is this number? Is this referencing this, or is this referencing this? And as things get more complex, it's going to be really important that you understand exactly what each variable is doing or what it is. And if we're not naming our variables in a way that we understand, we're just giving ourselves a harder time. And it's going to make it harder on ourselves and our coworkers when we're trying to figure out what does this code do. And so so it won't error out, I guess, but still I would highly recommend that you use like n or use like num. Sometimes people use like num instead of number. Just basically as long as it's different. That's really the goal here. And so just to show you guys this still works. Cool, it still works. Okay. Great question. Any other questions? Yes.
I have a question, Leon. So when you're doing the num and the inside, it's a variable, right?
Correct.
But if you were to call it like just say outside of that loop, you would say print num. Would it print anything?
No.
Or just like that, would it print anything
Let's
there?
see what happens. So it did everything within it did all of this first, and then we can see it says undefined local variable or method num. So it's
So it
saying this because this num is specific to this. What it's called technically, the technical term is this is a block. And so this num is specific to this block or this loop. Outside of the loop, it's not available.
it's nothing. Okay,
Correct.
that makes sense.
And so
Okay.
this is kind of a more, I don't want to say more advanced, but this is something that gonna we're gonna have to remember in the future because if we declare a variable within here, so like for example, name equals Leon. This variable, the same as this variable right here, is only available within this loop, within this block. If I attempted to manipulate that variable outside here, so for example, I did p name, it should break. Cool. It's like, yeah, undefined local variable method name. It's like, what is name? Name doesn't exist outside of this loop. Name only exists within here. So in that same sense, num is only available within here. So what that's the technical term for what that is it's called scope. And so technically this is block scope. And by block scope, basically what it's saying is that, hey, num is scoped to only this method, to this loop, to this block. Outside of it, you don't have access to that. And that's a good thing for multiple reasons down the line. I guess one thing right off the back, the reason why this is important, this idea is important, is because let's say that we're using a variable in here. Again, I'm just going to do like name equals Leon. If it was really important for it to be in here and we're doing something cool, important with it, if we have like another function, I'm just going to create def something, puts something. We'll get to what this is later. But basically, if we're going to reuse that variable, like name equals whatever, basically, if this wasn't block scoped, we're now reassigning what that variable it is. So basically, like later on in the code, it's like we can break whatever it is we're doing up here if this was if this was like available everywhere. But because name is specific to this function, now this name and this name are technically completely separate. And in this scenario that for whatever reason they're about different things, this will not break whatever's happening up here. So that's why kind of in the future, it's important to understand this idea of where variables are available If we declare a variable outside of something, it's available everywhere. If we declare a variable within a block, it's only available within that block. Sorry, kind of a lot. If there's any, really what I want you guys to understand here is this idea of an each loop. But yeah, there's a lot going on here kind of under the hood. But yeah, really more or less, I just want you guys to get comfortable with this each loop. So the way it works, just as a quick review before I give you guys the exercise, is we have an array. We're gonna do an each loop to basically loop through this array, and each index of the loop is going to be assigned to whatever variable it is we're setting within these pipes. And so that's how we can manipulate it within the loop. That's really all you guys need to understand. All that stuff with block scope, function, whatever, don't even worry about it. That's stuff that we'll cover later. Okay. Examples of each loops. All right, cool. There's a couple examples. All right. So you guys' exercise, use an each loop to print out each element in your colors array. And then after that, I'd like for you to also add a sentence. So it's printing out a sentence with each element in the loop. So basically, kind of like what we did here. Basically, it should say like the current color is whatever, etc. Okay, cool. You guys are good to share your screen and try that out. I'm gonna grab something real quick, guys. I'll be right back. You guys a couple minutes. Let's see, actually is let's get it ready. Hey, Ron, you're right there. Go ahead and add that back. Do Command Z. Or yeah, you can type whatever. So basically, so no longer are we using a while loop where we're gonna do like colors at an index. So it's confused. It says no implicit conversion of string into integer. And the reason it says that is because if you're using this syntax, you're saying colors at, and it would be an index. So like 0, 1, 2, whatever. And so that's what it's assuming. So it's like, hey, you cannot use a string. Color is a string. Technically, it's like black, blue, or red, depending on which time through the loop it is. And so it's like you cannot do colors at black. You cannot do colors at blue. That doesn't make sense. And so that's why we're not doing a while loop anymore. Instead, we're using this. We're using color. And so to keep it simple, all you need to do is delete all that and just write color because each time through the loop, color is going to be the different index for what it is. That's the kind of the great thing with this each loop versus using a while loop. Yeah. Yep. So you can just interpolate, just do is and then hashtag curly brackets. Yep. And then put color and then do end quotes. Perfect. Now try this out. Perfect. There you go. So it's printing out twice because you're telling it to print out twice. Perfect. There you go. Solid. All right. You guys are good to stop sharing your screen and we're going to go through the next concept. I guess actually before we move on, does anybody here, I know you guys, it's your first time dealing with these kind of loops. Any of you here have a preference on while loops versus each loops? Any thoughts, preferences?
I think based on initial impression, I would take each loop.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah, it's much cleaner, straightforward.
Super. Yeah, no, I agree with both of you guys. Yeah, 9 times out of 10, if I don't have to do a while loop, I'm gonna do an each loop. It does the same exact thing. I don't have to keep track of an index. I don't have to create a variable for an index. I don't have to check what the length of the array is. Like, it's just so much cleaner. Yeah, I like each loops. They're probably my favorite loop to do. And if you guys see me writing a loop, 9 times out of 10, it's gonna be an each loop. Okay, so the next thing that we're gonna go through and we might not get too far into it, but we're gonna go. So we already have done like arrays, but if you guys remember, I mentioned something dealing with like nested something. So whenever we're dealing with something that's nested, so for example, I guess before we get into the nested array, like a nested conditional. So we didn't go through this too much, but a nested conditional is basically a conditional with a conditional inside it. So for example, let's go like number equals 10. If number is greater than 10, I'm going to put my end and I'm going to do like puts something. And then, so this is one level of a condition. If I nest another condition in here, it means that I'm doing another condition within that condition. So I'm gonna go like if number is greater than 7. I don't know. It could be anything. The condition doesn't make sense, but the idea is that it's a nested condition, something else. So basically, a nested conditional is a conditional with another conditional inside of it. In that same sense, a nested array is going to be an array with another array inside it. For example, let's go like movies, and then I can do equals, and then so I'm going to do square brackets, and I'm going to do this. So you're going to see me, I'm going to click enter, and I'm going to split this into separate lines. And I'm doing this for readability. I don't have to. I could continuously use it like this, but I want to put it on separate lines, and you'll see why. It'll make sense in just a second. So for example, let's say I have like action movies, and then from there, so the action movies I have are going to be, let's say, Die Hard and Mad Max or whatever. And then from there, I'm going to do a comma, and then I'm going to go to the, sorry, and then I'm going to go to the next line. Wait, sorry. Let me fix this. I messed up my index. I messed up where I was putting it. So I'm going to create an array here, and then let's go action, comma, and then it's going to be Die Hard, comma, Mad Max. I know we'll go through what's going on in just a second, sorry. And then now here's where I can do the comma. And then we're gonna go, let's go comedy, for example, and then comma, and then what the examples are. So for example, Super Bad and Step Brothers. Okay, sorry, I messed up where my quotes were. So this is another, that's, well, I mean, that's kind of why I structure it this way. I could, by all means, I could have done this. There's nothing wrong with writing it this way, but the other way is a whole lot more readable to me. So the way that we're going to do that is I'm just going to click enter here, and then at the ending of this one, I'm going to click enter again. And so the way this reads is that we have an overall movies array. And I guess the first thing maybe to do that we could do is just go P movies. Let's just look at what movies is. So if I go Ruby practice RB, we see movies is this overall nested array. So we have the outer array, which is movies, and then it's going to be action, Die Hard, Mad Max, technically in one element, and then it's going to be comedy, Superbad, Step Brothers, that stuff within another element. And to show you guys that, if I do movies at 0, that's only actions, Die Hard, and Mad Max. Or if I do movies at 1, do the same thing. It's only comedy, and then it's that other inner array with Superbad and Step Brothers. So the basic idea is that we have an outer array that contains an inner array, which actually contains another inner array. And actually, yeah. So sorry, I guess now that I'm thinking of it, next what's it called? I wish I didn't add like this is like 3 levels to it, but it is what it is. It's okay. Okay, so I haven't showed you guys yet this, but I want to see if anybody has any ideas. So right now, when I print this out, it says, sorry, comedy, Superbad, and Step Brothers. How can I make it just print comedy, for example, from here? I haven't showed you guys, but I just want to see just kind of, what do you guys think? What do you guys think I should try?
It'll be like one bracket, one bracket.
Like that? Like that, Ron?
I don't know. That looks weird, but let's go try.
Yeah, let's just try it out. So another thing, it does look weird. But another thing about it looking weird is like because we're running it on our computer, like we can kind of just, even if it looks weird, just try it out. You never know. If it breaks, it'll give you an error. If it doesn't break, then cool, you figured it out or something like that. Cool. Let's try it out. So 1 gave me Superbad and Step Brothers. So that means that if I do 1 0, now I get comedy. And so basically what we're doing is we're slowly making our way through the nested arrays. This
Is
first,
it not an index in the array?
I'm sorry,
Are they still considered indexes inside the array of the array? Do you get what I
correct,
mean by that?
correct,
Okay.
exactly. And so with this movies array, Index 0 is this whole thing. Index 1 is this whole thing, which is exactly why to grab this chunk, it's index 1. And then from there, if we want to go into the next level, we're going to go, for example, index 0 is this level. Index 1 would get us this. And so, for example, that's why we were able to print out comedy there. And if we print out 1, then we get Superbad and Step Brothers. And so what do you think? How could I print out specifically Step Brothers? What do you guys think? Junior, it looked like you
One,
said 1. Yeah. What were you saying, Kiko?
one, and then the next one be two instead of the one.
So 2?
No, no, no. No, go back. The second one, yeah, make it two.
Make this one 2? Okay, let's try this out. So we get nil. Why do you think we get nil? So nil, I briefly touched on this the other day. Nil is basically nothing. It's like it doesn't exist. So the reason why we're getting nil is because what we did here is, if we remember, this first index is this whole thing, this whole thing. So we're like, okay, cool, grab index 1. So that's this whole thing. And then this level is going to be 0, 1, and then technically there's no index 2 at this level. So we're trying to basically print out something that doesn't exist, because technically there's no index 2 here. If I added another thing here, let's just go like test. Now there's an index 2. So if I run this, it says test. However, originally there isn't an index 2, which is why we keep this at 1. And then Junior, I saw you were saying maybe add another 1. Is that what you were saying?
So like a triple one.
Exactly. And so now if I run this again, now we see it says Step Brothers, because this is the first level, this is the second level, and this is the third level. We're slowly making our way through. Okay, so with that being said, what do you guys think? How could I print out Die Hard? I'd like for someone to help me out.
Triple zero.
000? Let's try it out. So you said movies at 0, at 0, at 0. Didn't print anything.
010. Junior put it in the chat.
0, 1, 0. Oh, sorry. I'm not printing it. I'm not printing it out, so we're not seeing anything. There we go.
No.
Die Hard. And then if I change this back to 0, just to show, we get A. So the reason we get A is because technically, sorry, and this is another concept in itself, but technically name strings. So for example, name equals Leon. A string is technically an array. So if I did P name at 0, this should give me L. There's L. That's why it prints out L. If I did P name at 2, it should give me O. Oh, sorry, I added an extra thing. There it says O. So that's why when we print it out 000, it's giving me A, because it's saying, hey, within this string, technically, which is an array, I'm going to get the first index is A. But yeah, so to change it to get Die Hard, like what you guys said, it's 1. So it's 0, 1, 0. Cool. Does this idea of nested arrays kind of make sense to you all? So and so. So this is something new. I'm sorry, I meant to do a simpler example first, but then I was like, I ended up just doing it. I was like, I didn't think of it until after. So let's see. I'm gonna give you guys an example to mess around with this, and then from there, we're gonna stop there. And tomorrow we're gonna start with nested arrays again. So we'll do a review of nested arrays before we move on to the next thing, which the next thing is gonna be looping through this. But we'll get to that when we get to that. Okay, so I'm gonna give you guys an exercise, and I'm gonna create an array just for you guys to mess with. Let's do this one. All right, we're just gonna start with this. Here's a simpler example. This one is only two levels, it's not three. All right, cool. So you guys are good to try this out. Basically, I want you guys to figure out how to pronounce Bob, how to pronounce Charlie, and how to pronounce Frank. All right, cool. You guys are good to share your screen and try it out.
Hey, Adrian, for yours, you're printing out only indexes. Yeah.
Give you guys a couple more minutes on this, a minute or two. right, you guys are good to stop sharing your screen. And I'm going to go through one last thing just regards to this example. And then from there, yeah, we will start to wrap up. All right, cool. So in order to do this, let's go in here. We'll do it together real quick. So the exercise was this. Print out Bob, Charlie, and Frank. Okay, so the first thing actually, before we even do it, whenever I'm dealing with data that I don't know, like maybe I don't know what it looks like. And so I guess what the point I'm trying to make here is in the future, we're gonna be like making let's say we're like calling some other place to get some data, and it's gonna be formatted in some way. We might not even know what the data looks like. Like for all we know, there's another array in here that says something for whatever reason. And the point I'm trying to make with that is the first thing that I do when I'm dealing with data that I don't know how to manipulate or I don't know how to parse, I guess, or look through, is I'm just going to start at the top level. I know that there's some object called teams. Let me just print out teams. What is teams? Cool. Teams is basically, it looks like it's a nested array. All right, cool. So the next thing is I'm tasked to print out Bob. I don't really know. I don't know how to do that. So I know teams gets me everything. So let's just try, I know like there's an index. Let's just try 0. Let me print that out. Okay, cool. I know that now I can get with the 0 index, I can get Alice and Bob, which I'm tasked to get Bob. So I'm like, okay, cool. So maybe now here's where I can try doing 1. Okay, cool. There's Bob. And so I guess the point I'm trying to make here is if you don't know what the data looks like, or if you're just not sure what it is that you need, for example, in this example with this movies array, it isn't straightforward to be like, oh yeah, go to 010 to grab Die Hard. You kind of have to think through it first. And so in this example, for example, I might be like P movies and just print out movies like that. And then from there, I might go into the first index. The first index gets me this whole thing when I print that out. Okay, cool. Now I don't want action, but I want Die Hard. So then more than likely I'm going to go like 1. And let me print that out. Okay, cool. That gets me this array. Okay, cool. Let me go in one more level. Okay, cool. Let me try 0, etc. And so the point I'm trying to make is to slowly work your way through it. I'm not expecting anybody here to just go, oh yeah, P teams at 0, at 1, at whatever, at 3 or whatever. Like you don't need to know the answer, but I'm expecting you to know how to find the answer. I'm not expecting anyone here to be like, oh yeah, it's just like that. And so I do not mind by any means, and I would kind of recommend slowly working your way through it, especially if it's something new and if it's something that you're unsure of. And so, for example, for the next one, it wants me to print out Charlie. So I see Charlie's right there. I know 0 got me this index, so Charlie more than likely is index 1. So let me comment this out, and I'm gonna go P teams at 1. Run this. Okay, cool. That got me Charlie and David. And so now I know I can just go at 0. And that should get me Charlie. Perfect. And then the last one is to get Frank. So once again, I know that this one was 0, this one was 1. Now I know this one's 2. So I'm going to go P teams at 2. And let's print that out just to make sure it works. Cool. I see Eve Frank, and I'm trying to get Frank. So then that's where I'm going to go 1. Run it. Now we got Frank. And if I uncomment all of them, now we can see I have Bob, Charlie, Frank, exactly like what the exercise says. But yeah, so the point I'm trying to make here is feel free to, and I would recommend to slowly work your way through the data. There's no rush for you guys to have the answer. Like you're not going to get extra points or anything like that. You're going to get points for doing it right. And ultimately you're helping yourself to do it right rather than yourself to like rush through it. I'm not to say no one's doing that, but I just want to emphasize that because that's not something I emphasized when we automatically went into this like triple nested loop or nested array. Okay, cool. And then the last thing I wanted to share is that some people have noticed that they put spaces here, and this won't break actually. If I run this, it does the exact same thing, but the convention is to not have a space. But if you wanted to, kind of up to you. And you'll see me do it like this rather than putting a space. But if you put a space, as you just saw, it doesn't matter whether or not I do or not ultimately. To me, it's just I want to keep everything uniform. I'm used to doing it this way, and this is kind of the convention. So I'm going to continue to do it that way. But if you wanted to, it's completely up to you. Okay. Does everyone here feel a little bit better with arrays and like nested arrays specifically? Yeah. All right, cool. So on that note, we're gonna go ahead and call it here. There, and then we can kind of pick up from here tomorrow, and we're gonna figure out how can we. And I guess if you guys wanted to think about it, we're gonna try to figure out how can we loop through this. So we knew that we did loops with like an each loop like this to loop through a like one level of an array, but how can we do it so that way we can loop through multiple different levels of an array? Like, what if I wanted to print out Alice, Bob, Charlie, David, Eve, Frank? Like, how could I do that? And that's kind of what I want to leave with you today. So that you guys can think about that. And then tomorrow, that's what we're going to start with. We'll do a quick review and then we're going to go through how to loop through this. Okay, cool. Questions, comments about anything? All right, cool. On that note, thank you all for being here. You guys are killing it. And just keep it up. Ask questions. And yeah, show up and be here. And I'm gonna be here as well. I'll help you guys out. Lon and I will help you guys out in any way that we can. Cool. So you guys have a great night, and I will see you guys tomorrow at 6. See you guys.
Hi
Thanks,
guys,
man.
be safe. Thank you.
Laters.